what goes with that right there.
Good morning. Thanks everyone for joining us. This is Ahead of the Curve. Today we have a guest co-host, PeaceLoveMusicG. That's his handle on Twitter. Well, X, I suppose. And we have Rafa of, and I know I'm gonna butcher this, brother, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. Uasu? Is that it?
Yep. Good morning,
Oh,
everyone.
man. Good morning, man. Talking about his project, Uasu, we're gonna just talk about the market, just kind of chill. But basically, the theme of this show can be summarized as follows: there's so much garbage in the market, and crypto is an attention economy, and the attention typically goes to the garbage, right? So the really good stuff, I want to bring to you guys, and I want to bring it to you guys before anyone else does. That's kind of the whole point of this, and I couldn't think of a cooler project to start off with. But real quick, um, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, we obviously know how we met. We met through Stacks. We met through Node Rocks. Very thoughtful guy. But yeah, why don't you?
So I'm about to round the hill. I'm heading towards 50 years old. I just turned 47. I'm an old guy. I'm a dad. That's really my main job. I have 7 children, 5 adult children. I've been into the crypto space or aware of the crypto space since like around 2015. Started really getting a little bit more paying attention in 17. Was kind of fully participating in the space, not into everything, in crypto for the last cycle. And now I feel like I've been really paying attention since the bear market came in and planning accordingly and kind of just getting a little bit more into observing what's going on in the space. I participate in a lot of different discords, just looking around for information. I am definitely one of the bigger participants in Node Rocks. That's one of the main focus projects that I kind of participate with the most at this point. But there's a lot of stuff that that I look at in a broad spectrum. I play some music. Really into the Stacks ecosystem and the people involved there. I love the spirit. Everyone's willing to work together, help each other out, try to figure things out, and it's a really cool thing to witness because it's really my fundamental goal is to kind of figure out how we advance humanity with a more moral and ethical paradigm for social organization that's a little bit more consensually based, and I think that the blockchain provides us with that opportunity. So that's where I'm coming from.
No, 100%. And you're doing it right. I mean, that's the time to pay attention is in the bear market, right? When the bull market's really full bore, it's hard to pay attention. I'm glad you brought up Node Rocks. I'd like to talk about decentralized communities a little bit at some point. And Rafa, you were one of the first people I met when I came into the Stacks ecosystem. You've been here longer than I have, and you're just always just high integrity, very smart guy. So happy to have you here. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you got going on and what you've been up to?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to acknowledge that this is such a pleasure to be able to be here on a Sunday morning with you, Jack. Thank you for the invitation, and get to know more people in the community. PeaceLoveMusicG. I know you've been testing the app, so I'm just glad that we're meeting. In terms of who I am, I'm known by Rafa.BTC. I have a background in finance. Co-founded a hedge fund here in New York, a hedge fund startup back in 2015. I built and grew that business by multiple fold during 5 years. And towards the end of my separation from my ex-business partner, I discovered Stacks and never looked back. And currently I'm building, swapping without slippage.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I want to talk about that. We so basically you know, I feel as though we're in early stage bull market. I think that most of the opportunity is surrounded Bitcoin and specifically layer twos on Bitcoin. I think that's where the real meta's at. But by the same token, you know, crypto is an attention economy. I think that's undeniable. And you know, one of the things that's really been bothering me, so I want to get some input on you guys, and it shouldn't because this logically makes a lot of sense. The celebrity coin stuff that just popped off in the past couple weeks, and really, you know, there's so many adages in crypto like, oh well, I'm in it for the tech, not the money, or right, you know, you heard that, you hear the left curve, right curve, you know, you hear all of these different things, but I guess in reality, the celebrity coin thing is really a logical conclusion to this the way that the attention economy in this space works, and I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. You know, and then it's funny. I think about uh, how so many crypto influencers like to like go to Dubai and box and things like that. So there's a small chance that we might be able to see Celebrity Deathmatch. So I don't know if y'all remember that show. Rafa, you might be a little too young for that. That was a MTV special for Gen X and old millennials. But yeah, you got any thoughts on this, you know, celebrity thing we got going on in the market right now?
Well, not really, but yeah, I think, you know, like meme coins are a big sort of like the new sort of look like lottery. Like it works like a lottery, right? So if you're in early and then if it picks up, if the meme is big enough, you know, lots of ifs in between, then you know, the lottery, you can potentially win the lottery with a couple
Right.
of hundreds make, you know, millions.
And it's funny,
actually, yeah,
it's funny you say that because we're entering lottery odds. Do you know how many tokens were released on Solana last month? I read on X. I didn't verify this, but it came from what I consider a pretty good source. 450,000 tokens released on Solana alone last month. So we really are getting a lottery odds. But it, you know, when you fracture liquidity that much, it really makes it hard for, you know, for people to get winners, right? But
yep.
but yeah.
The bright side to that is you got a lot of people. The cool thing is it's a cheap way to experiment with tokenomics and token ideas in a place that's really like, you don't want to see anyone get hurt financially, but if you're really aware and you're getting involved and you're investing in something like that and you're paying attention to it, there's a learning process there, and the more people that are getting involved in that actually does show a broader adoption in the space. So that's a really cool aspect of it.
And it's true. I mean, because you know,
most of it's garbage from a financial standpoint.
It could absolutely mean, you know, a easier tool for mass adoption. And I do agree with you. If you get in, almost no one, I'd love to know the percentage, but almost no one gets into crypto or Bitcoin or anything because they fully understand decentralization. They fully understand the ramifications of what that means. You know, hard money. You know, very few read the white paper. And I mean, I remember the first time I read the white paper, I was still pretty new. And years later, I read it again, and it's like it clicked on so many more different levels. So, I mean, if you get in and you survive and you develop a passion for it, I think that's definitely a silver lining. I think that's pretty undeniable. And the thing is, you know, there's so many things about this technology that are just super useful, even if you just get away from the hard money aspect of it, right? And you just get into this idea of, wow, you could use blockchains for things like voting. You could use DAOs for things like actual governance of people. You know, you really could. You could have a constitutional republic on a DAO, you know, and then you start thinking, wow, why can't I just have real-time feedback and with my representatives? Why can't I see exactly what's going on, you know, in the civil life? So I mean, there's that, and then there's the decentralized community aspect of it, which I'm very interested in and very passionate about, because an economy is made up of people, and you know, a community is people. So I mean, that's your absolute foundation of what we're doing here. And you know, if you take a project like Welsh, that's in my opinion the gold standard for what a decentralized community can be. But then you know, for instance, with Node Rocks, if I had to put pin a silver medal on anybody, it would be the Node Rocks community, right? uh and I like to see that, and that's very important, because really that's the direction that we're going, I think, is a culture. What do you think, Steve? I'd like to get some feedback on you on decentralized communities.
Yeah, it's really so a lot of, I mean, we're still just kind of experimenting with these concepts because it's very new. We haven't really had the technology to do this before. But there is, you know, a lot of interesting things develop, and you know, the value of what the metrics are, what the how human psychology works, where if you're trying to, there's a point where you've got to be productive and you need some kind of organization to be productive and to make stuff, but you also need participation to, and so people have to want to participate. So there's some balance there with regards to decision making and participation. That's challenging to get things organized and working, and then also to properly incentivize participation. But it's yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Some of the cool things that have developed in Node Rocks, like we've built the version 1 of the staking platform, trying to get more community involvement and building that to be a mechanism to potentially do more voting or governance down the line through certain incentivization. We're still working on the technological challenges for making that work right. Part of that ties into Bitscape's working on a gasless exchange protocol, and that's kind of part of what the staking platform is. But like, so another, I don't know if you're familiar with the ExO Heroes or the exponential organizations, Peter Diamandis and Salim Ismail. They're, I don't know if you know, they did, so ExO Heroes is an ordinals project that was started. It's kind of an interesting thing where they're looking at this kind of stuff too, how to organize decentralized organizations and get things to work together.
Right.
It's
Well, you bring up a really good point. So people who are new to stacks, they probably don't know about the stacks advocates, right? Rafa does. I'm sure he remembers the stacks advocates. But basically, the Stacks Foundation invested a lot of time and resources into trying to figure out what governance in a decentralized community could look like and should look like. And they really, I mean, they took this all the way to the university level, trying, you know, and there was a lot of fascinating work done about that. And you're right, because a decentralized community, in my mind, you know, the community brings value to the project or the protocol, and the protocol brings value back to the community, right? That's, in my mind, that's how that should balance. But how do you get there? We wait and see, because this is all brand new. And that brings us to a good time to talk about your project, Rafa. I really want, I think this is really cool, and I want you to tell everyone about it. You know, just explain it to us like we're five. Just give a basic rundown, and we'll build from there.
Sure. I can also chime into the topic of meme
Please.
coins but yeah. Oh, just maybe like a small transition. Like if I had to form an opinion, I agree with you that meme coins are a formidable like vector to drive adoption into the new crypto world. And essentially, like the coin itself has its utility in and of itself because you can transfer it on the internet without anyone's permission. There's a lot of property that already inherits the coin itself, and then you're right that like the holy grail is to build a project that is decentralized, or to, like in the case of meme coins and celebrities, like to enable the fan base to sort of like be long the celebrity, right? So if you're long the celebrity, if the celebrity is doing a great job at grabbing all this attention, then there's a probability that the value of the coin will rise. And then eventually it's up to sort of like the users, right, who decide to use the coins, and the builders who decide to create more utility on top of the coin. Because if you think of Bitcoin, it's almost the same, right? It's like there's obviously like big difference, right? And today it's completely a different asset. But initially it's a coin that you can transfer, that you cannot double spend, that you cannot dilute, and so on and so on. And all these properties, the other coins could inherit if they want to, if it's governed this way in the code.
Right.
I think that as long as you don't put more than an amount that you're willing to lose, right? It's not like an investment. It's more like a participation into a lottery or into a community that you like, and you're okay with losing this amount.
Right.
But the difference with that and Bitcoin is simple. Bitcoin is the new real estate. So it's completely a different asset. So
100%.
buying a house in the 60s, and holding on to it for the rest of your life, and when you would retire, you'd be good, right? You'd be okay. You had a roof over your head. This is the same thing. If you buy Bitcoin now, you can hold on to it. So do not sell when it dumps. Not financial advice, but that's my opinion. And then eventually it becomes almost like a roof. It becomes an asset that produces a yield that you can rent, just like real estate. So that would be my 2 cents on the meme coin.
Fantastic point too, man. Because first of all, the meme coin thing is a byproduct of the financial nihilism that is faced by, millennials, Gen X, well, to an extent, a very small extent, Gen X, millennials primarily, Gen Z. Do you take your $100 you have left over from your paycheck and try to do anything with it? I mean, it's getting weaker by the day, it seems like. Or do you just go ahead and do this thing where then there's this community part? It's fun, and there's a chance, right? There's hope. Hope's a very powerful thing. I'm a big fan of meme coins. In that respect, as long as it's done for the right reasons, obviously that's a big part. And then the education part's important so that people can understand, well, what's a good meme coin? What do you look for with any project? What's this token distribution look like? Can they just print more? Et cetera, et cetera. And it is a good stepping stool. And I love the parallel between real estate, because you're absolutely right. Bitcoin is not just, digital gold, and it's not just programmable money. It's both of those things. And, you have the perfect money the most perfect form of money we've ever created as a species. And, if you look at when people are sitting here and getting super emotional about the market, people are up you know, hundreds of X's from the bear market, and you take a 3% dip, and they're like, oh my God, the sky's falling. And then you just like, wait, just take a minute and go see what global real estate is valued at. You know, it's something like $300 trillion, and then understand that as the boomers kind of, you know, pass, a lot of real estate's going to hit the market, and a lot of real estate's going to be repriced in Bitcoin, because not everyone wants to be a renter. That just became a strategy due to the nature of fiat currency, you know, towards the end of its life cycle, right? So that's really cool. I'm glad you brought that up. And again, I mean, you're such a thoughtful guy. So tell us about your project, man. We get this part out there, dude. It's so cool.
Yeah. So where should I start? Like, there's a problem, right? The problem is real. I personally lost thousands in swapping large amounts on stacks, and I figured there must be a better way, right? And then I looked around, and you know, who else has this problem? And there's actually a stxtools.com, I think it is. They have a page where they follow all the whales, and you can see some of them, like, they have this need to swap for large amounts. So be it, for example, when they need to when they have, like, or stacking pools, when they have users who withdraw stacks from STX, for example, or Lisa, right? Liquid staking. So they have an operation here to essentially, they have to swap from STX to STX in large amounts. Or the fast pool has the same issue. Like, every 2 weeks, you know, they need to convert the Bitcoin into STX rewards. So what are the solutions out there? If I go to a DEX and the liquidity is not enough, you know, I need to fraction my large swap. So it takes time. You know, it's an entire operation. Or what else can I do? I can maybe contact, you know, a miner who has the opposite need, where they get the reward in STX and they need to circle back into Bitcoin so that they can continue mining stacks. And so if I know that miner pretty well, okay, that's not a problem. I trust them. Then we can do a simple swap between each other. But there's probably a better way. So the Magic Swap was created, and it's amazing. Allows for essentially like atomic swap between Bitcoin and stacks, but it requires essentially some liquidity to power that solution. So I said, there must be a better way. So there was the free catamaran swap that existed as well. And for some reason, it never picked up. And I have a background in finance. And so I figured maybe the issue is some technical term, but essentially, when I initiate the swap, the last person who finalizes the swap has the option to actually not finalize the swap. So, because if you think of it, of an atomic swap, is simply you escrow a first leg of a swap, and then you essentially fill in the second leg, and then we exchange these two legs between each other, right? But if the first person escrows the large amount, now if I'm the last person to enter the swap, it's up to me. You know, if market conditions change, I might decide not to continue with the swap. And that is commonly known as the free option problem in finance. And so that's essentially the problem I targeted to solve with Beefy Swap.
So basically, if you just cut it down to brass tacks, you're enabling OTC deals in a trustless manner. And
Yep.
And that's massive. And you know, there's so much opportunity for that, because right now, you know, there's like Discord groups and so forth that do this, but obviously trustless is the best way. You know, I mean, you want this handled by a smart contract that's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do, not have to worry about. So I mean, you have ramifications here that extend even beyond stacks. That's what's so cool about it.
Absolutely. Yes. The benefits, Jack, is like no slippage. So as opposed to an AMM, I'm not constrained by the liquidity in the pool. So if I have a large swap, I'm not going to have a price impact. It's really my counterparty and I who define the price. So instead of losing thousands of dollars because there isn't enough liquidity in the AMM, I can find a counterparty and we can swap, as you said, like without the need to trust. It's an atomic swap. It's governed by code. And also it's on stack. So after 2 Bitcoin blocks maximum, it's secured by Bitcoin finality.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. So if I'm swapping for a large amount, you know, I wait for 1 or 2 Bitcoin blocks with the new upgrade Nakamoto, and I'm secured by the budget of Bitcoin, which is awesome.
Gold standard.
And then, yes, and then it's you know, Stacks is also potentially in the future is going to be immune to reorgs for L2 only transactions. So if I have an L2 only transaction, so that's a little technical, and there's a Bitcoin reorg and my swap went through, I am guaranteed that when the reorg sort of like is fixed by Stacks, my transaction will go through in the same order, and essentially I'm not going to be impacted by the reorg. That's also pretty great. And the bonus on the cake, I would say the icing on the cake, is that Nakamoto brings 5 seconds to 10 seconds per transaction, per block, right? So now I'm going to have like a pretty nice user experience where I can create an offer, deposit sort of like this guarantee, this premium that I talked about, the option, right? The free option problem. So essentially, if let me pause for a second. If I want to sort of like walk you through the process of the little video that you just saw, essentially I created sort of like a term sheet, the condition of a swap, and I deposit a small guarantee that backs that term sheet. Right. That's the sort of like the innovation that I'm bringing on top of the catamaran swap by Frigid. And then once that's live, so I offer backed by a guarantee, and then a counterparty matches, escrows the first leg. Once that's done, after 5 seconds, 10 seconds, now I can essentially swap by sending the second leg in an atomic way. And if I don't, this is where the sort of the innovation is. If I don't swap, if I don't honor my term sheet, right, my promise to essentially go with these conditions, then essentially my counterparty is going to be able to gain that little deposit for me not following through with my promise.
And rightfully so. What you think about that, Steve? I that blows my mind, man. I mean, that's
it's incredible. I had the pleasure of chatting with Rafa a little bit yesterday about this and asked him a bunch of questions about it. And it's something that's absolutely needed in this space. You know, essentially you have a way to mitigate it's frictionless transaction for large volume traders where you're not going to affect it's definitely perfect if we can get it working. What I don't understand is how exactly the bond works or whatever it is, the assurance or the guarantee. Like, how does that? So if I make an offer that I want to swap, I put up a guarantee. If I back out, I lose my guarantee.
Yep.
So it's just about figuring out what's the proper incentive to make sure that they have enough of a guarantee not to back out. It's similar to putting a deposit. I'm a realtor, so that conversation about real estate and Bitcoin was all I had to let you guys talk because it's not pertinent specifically what I want to say, but about real estate. But it's the same type of thing as the bond, the guarantee on a real estate transaction. That's exactly how you keep a buyer from walking away. Like I have a lot of buyers that want to put $1,000 down on it buying a house. And there's a lot of sellers that will accept that, but not my seller. Like, I'm not taking my house off the market for $1,000. That's easy to walk away from when you're talking about $600,000-$700,000 transactions. So I'm curious to see how what the market dynamics will dictate on that number.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you bring that up, Peace Love Music, because I think that I'm not reinventing the wheel here. Like realtors are doing the exact same thing. If you want to buy a house and you don't make a deposit, and if you back up, you have that penalty. And like this is serious. Like we want to create
That's going to be on chain.
serious
That's going to
material.
be on chain too. That's going to be on chain too
Yeah.
very soon.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're sitting.
We're sitting here opining about real estate, Steve. Why don't you? I mean, you're an expert. Why don't you give that feedback?
It's actually really bad right now. It's really bad. It's so what I see in the market. I'm actually a member of the local Board of Realtors Government Affairs Committee and the state of Rhode Island's Government Affairs Committee. So I'm interactive with the state and local governments, and there's a lot of stuff. Like just the other day, like they're just making it basically harder and harder and more burdensome and costly to own real estate, which in the long term, you've got this situation where you've got all these massive asset management companies like BlackRock and Vanguard buying up all the houses because of course they are. They're able to borrow the money for cheaper, especially when they were getting it for, basically 0%. They could just buy these assets for essentially free. And now those guys' goal is to buy up as much property and then just turn us into a majority renting society, because they're able to absorb all of the added costs, like mandatory inspections for every 2 years. Just got passed in my state. They want to make it all electric buildings. There was a bill last year that we defeated because it's ridiculous. There's not even the infrastructure for it, but literally no new building permits, renovations, or new construction for any kind of fuel besides electric for anything, commercial, residential. So you can't heat your house with oil anymore if you renovate, like really. And this is not just local to my market. These are things that are being passed all over the place. So they really do. Bitcoin is an opportunity. Real estate too. If you can buy real estate now, it's going to just get harder and harder to do so. But it's also becoming more and more costly to actually hold it without generating income off of it. So it's not good.
There's two things that make me want to think that make me think about that. First of all, we as a people, we have to do a better job at electing our representatives. We're not involved enough in the political process. We saw some of the worst people and some of the most incapable, stupid people wind up in positions of power that just don't belong there. You have people just signing off on laws just because they're told to. These laws are pages and pages long, and they wouldn't read it and they wouldn't understand it even if they read it, right? I mean, that whole system is collapsing in on itself for a variety of reasons, but malfeasance, incompetence, and greed are high up there. So I really, and that's the beauty when you get to Bitcoin, is first we need to separate money from the state. This has to stop. And two, then on the individual level, and I'm as guilty about this as anyone because I abhor politics. The idea of getting involved in politics is just offensive to my soul. But you have a lot of people way smarter than me, going all the way back to Socrates, who describes the dynamics of how politics works, and we're seeing it play out in real life, right? So I really do. I am hopeful, and that's the reason that we're here, because we're trying to make a better way. We're trying to create better systems, and we're kind of on the bleeding edge of that, right? And so that's what's so important about this. And even with Beefy Swap, I mean, when you're looking at this and you're talking about, I mean, I can't wait for this to be available for ordinals, right? I can't wait. Like if I wanted to trade, 17 node rocks for, some just off the wall high floor price thing, I'd have to kill the floor price. You just list 17 of them. You're paying fees on all of this. how much cooler would it be to just be able to just do that and just make the trades you want to make with the person you want to make it, and it's done, right?
Yep.
And then you can take that into so many different real world applications, right? And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to John Ennis from NO Swap about what you're doing here, but I bet you he'd be super interested in learning more if y'all haven't had any discussions. You know, because NO Swap is doing some similar things in a different way, but it's showing a trend, and this is a positive trend, you know.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like the idea that you can swap with counterparties, suitable counterparties, right? So if you have a ton of supply of not rocks or you know anything, and you don't want to kill the price, that's a perfect way of doing it in a trustless way. Yeah, I'm a fan of everything that John is doing on also like sort of like like AI and these constructive ways of reusing value that you already have. And I think that the conversation that we're having with the both of you right here, like it's like this real estate and governance and what we're talking about, that this is like the red thread behind this new technology.
Right.
Bitcoin, Bitcoin, yeah, it's the new real estate. So we're seeing what has happened with real estate, that we're all boxed into smaller sometimes because yeah, these larger players, they essentially grab all of this stock, right? And then we're left as a buyer, we're left as and so we're left out, right? And the new generation is left out. You talked about this, Jack, and well, Bitcoin currently is something that you can still buy. And if you hold on to it, you have a good chance. And this is the emergence of a new governance. So you're talking about elections, and I think there was a project that I was very interested in that unfortunately didn't sort of succeed because probably it's a little premature versus sort of like the environment, the current environment, and mindset and trends, they take time to play over time. But that project was city coins and the ability to vote with your coins. I think that was very interesting, rather than just with your vote or with your feet. I think but I think this is playing out, like with celebrities, you can vote with your coins with
I think we need to get municipalities. We need to get municipalities onto the blockchain.
Yeah.
We need to develop methods for that makes it cheaper for them to do things that they have to do, and makes it more efficient for them to do these things so that they adopt the technology, and then we can advance it into becoming more just, instead of just an add-on to the current process, it becomes the fundamental rail for the process.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I mean that's why the education part's so important, and it gets back to politics. It has to, all of the onus is on all of us, because the change starts at the local level, and that's where we're going to have to start really focusing our attention, because we're just at a place where we're at the end of the road with fiat. It's just it's obvious. Like, how many people who bought a house in the 80s for $35,000-$40,000, and now they're sitting on a $500,000 home, they don't ever stop and think that the reason their home is valued more now is because the currency is devalued relative to the home. The materials the home were built with didn't come from Hogwarts or whatever. Like, it's not magical. They didn't magically become more valuable over time. The money's worth less.
It's $5 for a gallon of milk versus $1 for a gallon of milk when they bought the house. So I mean, it's the same. It costs you more to live. It's I mean, I probably think the three of us understand pretty well, beyond the average consumer, how the fiat money system is just theft through inflation. You
Right.
know, I mean, it looks like the economy is growing, and to some extent the economy is growing, but it's a way to grow the economy while simultaneously extracting wealth from the majority.
And if you look at like jobs reports, and not most of the data is bad, but you know, how many of these jobs are government jobs? That's not actually growing anything. You know, government jobs don't produce
Jobs.
anything of value. You know,
Right.
that's a whole thing for a different discussion. And plus it's Sunday, and I don't want to just sit here and be pissed off all day thinking about this because it's so frustrating. But what do you guys think about right now, just where we are in the market? What kind of things do you have your eyes on? I think that's always, because again, we're talking attention economy, and there's some really cool stuff being built that if you don't have, you know, Twitter influencers or whatever talking about it, it just flies completely under everyone's radar. I mean, that's the problem with Stacks. Stacks has a ticker, STX. Well, STX looks no different to just retail than anything else, than XYZ or any of this other crap. You know, the God only knows how many tickers by now. How many people get to that point that all of us got to, where you're like, let me look into this. Oh, wow, this is Ethereum on Bitcoin. This makes perfect sense. This is going to absolutely do amazing. Like, so what's some things you have your eyes on? What's some things that excite you? What you think about where the market's at? And so, yeah, let's just kind of go there. Who, I guess Rafa, if you got anything in mind. I know you've been heads down building, but you're on top of things.
Yeah, I'm a very bullish person in the Bitcoin and Bitcoin builder space. So I became recently sort of like a small angel, invested in a couple of startups. So it's pretty risky, but yes, I'm bullish. You know, anything that's done also on layer one and on Stacks. You know, like obviously, you know, these are different degrees of risk. So you know, these, like, there's Bitcoin first, right? Try and take your money back to Bitcoin if you think this is an environment that's where you want to fly to safety. But yeah, I'm slowly but surely started to realize how important Bitcoin is, and essentially, if I had to name anything, it would be Bitcoin. Now, in terms of like better plays, you know, Stacks is one, Nakamoto's coming, you know, all these properties I mentioned, you know, replayability, if there's a reorg, that's huge. It's completely underutilized right now, Stacks, and it's going to grow exponentially in my view. Not only with Bitcoiners, but, you know, broadly with you know, centralized exchanges using it. You know, like institutional investors are starting to wake up to the Bitcoin space itself, and the L2 Bitcoin layers are going to pick up even more steam, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, Velar is, I know you like Velar, Jack, but the price, you know, has been, you know, trending downwards quite a bit. So yeah,
When you look
know,
at
like,
when you look at Velar, the thesis is simple. You know, so right now, to distribute the tokens, you farm Velar. So farming's still ongoing, and even now, you know, you have like a 150% APY or something. You know, and it started for like the first couple days. It started at like 2,000. So when you look at that and you're like, obviously people who are farming, some of these people are selling their tokens as they go, right? I mean, that's a legitimate strategy for anybody to embrace. You know, for me, as a trader, I tend to look at medium to long time frames. That's where I do my best. And so I look at, if you take, for instance, Uniswap, right? At the height of DeFi summer, Uniswap was an $8 billion market cap, which is nice. Velar has 1 billion tokens ever. If you mean to tell me that this DEX that is on stacks and is L2 agnostic, that's going to go to many different L2s, isn't going to hit $8 a token minimum, you have to, that's a bet I'm willing to take. And then when you look at, okay, yeah, these guys are like crypto native, just really smart, competent people. And it's an actual DEX, they don't hold your money. This is how it's supposed to be. All of those things hit my buttons. And I agree. I'm super bullish on Velar because to me, it represents one of the best opportunities in the market right now,
Yeah, I want to say I was impressed by sort of Meteal's ability to execute so fast. You can tell that his team is pretty beefy. And his ability to be strategic and build the right things in the right place. Like, for example, a perp DEX, on a layer that's probably faster. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it's a different category. I would say it's risky, potentially lucrative, but you could lose, in my opinion, quite a bit if you don't know what you're doing. So.
Oh yeah, perps are the first time I traded perps was on BitMEX, right? So I just had put like $40 in that BitMEX account, and I'm like, okay, because I'm still green, I'm so wet behind the ears at this point, it ain't funny. So within about 10 minutes, it was gone. It's just I just cranked it to 100 times leverage, just immediately just lost it. Perps are a good tool if you know how to use them. And they are bringing the perp DEX to stacks. So we're gonna do that first. It's just post, Nakamoto got pushed back, and then they were like, okay, we'll put it over here. But yeah, perps are great, but just keep in mind when you see all of these massive liquidations, when the price moves one way or the other, like, oh, there was $300 million worth of liquidations in Bitcoin today. That's perps. So yeah, it's high risk, high reward, and it's not for the faint of heart, and not for the not for the newbie, but for people. I'm looking forward to it. That's fun. I love trading perps, and being able to do it decentralized is massive.
Absolutely.
How about you, Steve? What you got your eyes on, man? What's exciting you?
Well, I mean, I love stacks. I think stacks and Bitcoin are my main focus. I'm still a big believer in Ethereum. I think Ethereum will definitely have a place. I mean, it's a decentralized. We're talking about decentralization. That's the fundamental basis for all of this. So while I think that Bitcoin will still always be like the number one blockchain, I do think that there'll be the smart contract solutions and everything. There will always be a number of options. We don't want it just to default to one. But I do think that Stacks is building great stuff on Bitcoin, and it's definitely got a lot of growth potential. That's one of my main focuses. I also diversify into a lot of stuff. So I'm getting more exposed into the ordinal space. The Stacks NFT stuff is some really cool stuff going on with that. Like our ROO project. Interesting in seeing what kind of stuff develops on that. I know a lot of people look at Solana. I've always I didn't like I never liked FTX. I always got a bad feeling about them, and they were big on Solana. They were the big Solana guy. So I always kind of saw Solana as possibly a little bit of a trap to some extent for the space. So I avoided that largely to my own financial detriment, because I mean, I had opportunities to buy it a lot. I actually had a buy for $12 for Solana that I executed and then sold right away, because I had it on there on Coinbase for like a year and a half, and it executed, and by then I had so hated Solana that I sold it right away. Should have held on to it. But I actually like Cosmos better. It's just as fast. And I think that the community there is better than what you get in Solana, or a little less aggressive. I don't want to classify people as. It just seems like there's a lot of like exceptional hype and flash on Solana, where Cosmos provides some of the same speed and cheap usability without quite the same,
Yeah, the
easiness.
and it's difficult. And I agree. Like I think that maxis of any stripe have lost the plot. Because Bitcoin is the best at this one thing. Ethereum is a decentralized world computer. If you just want to just basically just bring it to brass tacks, being a maxi, it doesn't make any sense to me. It never has. But getting back to stacks, stacks metrics lately have been at all-time highs in terms of usability, in terms of users and transactions and so forth. And this is still pre-Nakamoto. To me, I think, Rafa brought it up in terms of being a beta play for Bitcoin. That's massively true. I'm very, very bullish on stacks. I don't know much about Cosmos. That's part of the thing. You only have so much bandwidth as a human. I'm sitting here. I can't wait for the next couple of years when I can just have an AI that can just sort through so much of this portfolio management and research and everything on my behalf. I think that's going to be really cool. And I think that anything that can kind of bring AI and decentralization together would be something I'd be extraordinarily excited about going forward. But yeah, I agree, and I'm not the biggest fan of Solana just because it is so centralized. But it's a good play. It's been a good play, and it's probably going to do very well.
Yeah, I think also, yeah, you mentioned it, Jack, that the big elephant in the room is AI. I think I don't know if 90% of the last batch of YC was AI startups or something. The AI is booming. I've invested in actually a friend's company who went to YC, and they have, after a few months, they have returning revenue. I mean, AI, I'm using AI for my personal use all the time. And when it comes to Beefy Swap, by the way, if you think of AI, maybe you could AI agents could be using peer-to-peer swapping to simply bypass the LP fees. I know people will not like this, but just by bypassing these LP fees and swapping with each other, obviously AMMs will still the convenience of AMM is much more it's much better user experience. You just swap and that's it. But when it comes to being economically rational, I think AI will definitely do peer-to-peer and save. Save. Yep.
Dude, if you want to make me sick, I can just go to that website and put in my MetaMask ETH address and see how much I've spent on gas fees. It's tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
At this point, and so I mean, to your point, I'm not Donald Trump. I don't need to be paying tens of thousands of dollars in transaction fees. So I mean that's why I'm so bullish, and I think that what you guys have built is just absolutely brilliant. It's massive use case there, from retail to institutional, right? And I mean, you don't get any better than that.
Yeah, even meme coins, a launchpad for meme coins. If you don't have the liquidity initially to fund your AMM, you could still think of hey, why don't we allow peer-to-peer in an initial phase for our meme coins to swap, and then grab some attention and momentum that way initially. There's so many ways, and I think I believe I agree with you. I think that stacks completely underutilized and underestimated in terms of being a better Bitcoin play and being able to attract even beyond that, beyond the Ethereum DeFi. We're talking TradFi, we're talking market makers, because again, I think something that people maybe don't talk much about because it's still not there yet, but replayability is going to be huge for arbitrageurs, for example, because they are going to be assured that their swap right? Their Beefy Swap is going to replay the way they want it to, and that's huge. Plus, again, the protection and finality of Bitcoin. I mean, these are words, etc., but like realizing what it means, and then starting to see the real actors out there, taking an interest in this tool. Like this is serious. This is built for security. This is, this is making a difference. And again, like
100%.
Bitcoin is like 10x, if not more, better settlement layer than the legacy banking system, where on weekends you cannot transfer. You need the authorization of your banker. For what purpose are you doing this transfer?
Right. No, exactly. Exactly.
It's 24/7. This is huge.
Yeah, and I think that right now there's so much smart money investing in Bitcoin L2s of all stripes, and obviously not every Bitcoin L2 is going to make it, but there's going to be some massive advantages there, right? And that's being L2 agnostic at this point with anything you're doing, even with ROO. I mean, we have some announcements coming up for ROO. We're going to be on more than just stacks. I mean, I think that these products being built are going to just be massively, some of them are just gonna be massively successful. So that's why I'm so glad that you were able to come here today and talk to us. I hope you'll come back later and fill us in on some more stuff, because I want the people who see this to just be cognizant of all of the really cool stuff that's being made and the opportunities there, because that's ultimately how you win. You don't win when your favorite influencer's talking about something. You're at that point, you're exit liquidity. You don't win when the mainstream crypto media finally picks up on something. When did they start talking about stacks? Like, they started talking about stacks when it was like $3 per token, not when it was 17 cents during the bear market, when people could have really changed their lives. But yeah, Steve, before we head out, you got anything you want to say, brother?
No, man, I just appreciate, I really, I've enjoyed this. Rafa, really cool. So happy we had a chance to meet each other. I love what you're building. Super appreciative of the opportunity, Jack. I love doing this, and I love what you're doing in the space, man.
Well, I'll look forward to having you back, man. I think that, this is fun. I want it to be useful to people, and there's so many interesting people doing cool things in this space that we need to highlight that, and we need to get this to retail, so to help grow them, not just their bottom line, but their understanding, because that's what it's going to take. We're sitting here on an invention that has the significance to humankind that the written word did, that the printing press did, that the discovery of electricity did. I mean, that's literally what Bitcoin is. It is a civilization altering invention, and anything that we can do to help people on board is a good use of time, as far as I'm concerned.
100%, man.
But I guess we'll wrap this up, guys. Look, Rafa, if you don't mind, we're heading to the ROO console for a minute. If it's Sunday, if some people are in there, and just do a little AMA and just chat a little bit, that'd be great. We're going to keep a link for this podcast in the actual console, so that people can easily reference it. It'll be put up on YouTube. But thank you guys for being here. This was a lot of fun, and I look forward to talking to y'all soon.
It was a pleasure, Jack. Thanks for the invitation.